Welcome to Amberg Acres. It is the middle of August, and if you haven't started yet, you should probably get going on it, is to get your bow sighted in and get it ready and all tuned up for the hunting season. Hunting season here in Wisconsin starts on September 14th. We want to be ready. We want to have everything ready. I cleaned out my blind yesterday. I went over there and swept it all out. It was all full of mice again. It's just one of them things. They seem to like getting in there. But if you haven't done so already, now would be the time to get your bow set up. Last year, I did not spend a lot of time hunting. I was building this barn. We had gone out west in August, so I never applied for a doe tag. And then when we got back, I started building this barn, and that took me well into October, you know, to get this barn up and get the roof on. So I really didn't hunt much last year until the end of October, early November. And around here, for whatever reason, and I've discussed this in other videos, the deer seem to disappear come November, end of October. I have never seen the rut. And I've talked to other people around this area, and there are guys that have been hunting here for years, which so have I, you know, 10 plus years I've been hunting this land. I have never seen the rut, the actual rut like I used to see down on the state land, down in the Kettle Moraine State Forest, where I would see these nice 10-pointers and 8-pointers come around all of a sudden in October and, you know, start running around the woods. I don't see that here. Haven't seen it since I've been up here hunting. You know, I try for a doe tag every year. We have a lottery system here up here in northern Marinette County. I believe they have 1,000 tags this year for public, or not, I'm sorry, I misquoted that. I think it was 250 for public land and 1,000 tags for private landowners on a lottery system. So on August 12th, I have to get online, get my name in a queue, and then if my name is picked, my number is picked, then I have a chance to buy a tag. Now last year I didn't bother with it because we were out west and we had sketchy internet most of the places we were at, so I did not waste my time trying to even get a doe tag. So last year was kind of a failure. But the year before, okay, I shot a doe, and I struggled with that. I had bought that new bow, that Bruin Ambush 345 is the one I'm going to use again this year. And for whatever reason, my arrows were flying all over the place, and I really struggled. I missed 3 deer before I finally shot a doe. So I'm going to try and correct that problem this year and make sure I hit the doe the first time I get a shot at one. So one of the things I'm going to look at is I bought some different arrows. The first set of arrows here are, and I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this right. It's like Rego X or Regox. I'm not really sure. These were bought on Amazon. The Regox arrow with a 125 tip on it, a 125 grain tip, weighs in at 425. Now, if I remember right, and I don't have the book, I don't know where it is, the book for the bow. I believe they said around a 400 grain arrow. And the other number I found on the internet was your bolt weight should equal 2 grains per pound of draw weight. So if this is a 175 pound draw weight bow, I should be around 350 grains. Now, what it doesn't say is that with or without the tip. You know, it doesn't say. You know, so I'm assuming that's with the tip, so 350, so I had about a 400 grain arrow. So then I added the 125 grains, so that's where I end up at 425 with this arrow. And when I'm target practicing, this arrow didn't fly that bad. It was once I put the broadhead on that it really went crazy. So I switched broadheads, I put on a different type of broadhead, and that seemed to help my issue a little bit. And I was able to shoot a doe in 2022. So this year I picked up a set. Well, let me go back to this Regal X. To me, this is a halfway decent arrow. If you're just starting out, I got a dozen arrows for $27.99 for a 12 pack. Okay? So that's a pretty reasonable priced arrow. Now on the site, and I'll put a link in the description for these arrows, but they don't tell you any kind of straightness or weight, what their tolerances are. So this year I picked up the Carbon Express. They're called Carbon Express pile drivers. So with the 125 grain tip, I am up to a 467 grain arrow now with this here. It's going to be a little heavier arrow. It starts out heavier, and that's their claim. The pile driver claim is that a heavier arrow, it's going to have more penetration and you know, bust through the deer a little easier. So we're going to try these out. I'm going to test both of these. I'm going to see if I can slow it down, allow you to see how bad or how good the arrow is flying and how big of a difference there are between the two. So the difference being in price, this is a 6-pack of arrows are $39.99. So if I wanted to buy a dozen arrows, I'd be up over almost 80 bucks, you know, for a 12-pack of arrows of these Carbon Express. Now, in the description, they tell you they have a tighter tolerance. They're sorted for straightness. So all 6 of these arrows are supposed to be within, I believe it's 4 thousandths. The straightness is sorted to plus or minus 4 thousandths. And the weight is sorted to plus or minus 1 grain. So that's pretty good. You're going to have 6 arrows that are pretty evenly matched here, where this set, these Regal X, I have no idea what you're getting unless you have a scale and you're going to weigh them all. So that's discussing the 2 different arrows here, price-wise. So the next thing we want to do, and this is one of the things that the experts on YouTube and stuff talk about, is your front of center, okay? That if the arrow is weighted properly, you should be 12 to 18% in front of center, okay? So what does that mean? Here we go. So you need a straight edge. You can do it on your finger if you're just trying to guess at it. But I marked these arrows. I put a white mark on there. Hopefully you can see that. That is the center of my arrow. So these arrows measured 21 inches, nock to tip, and I put that mark at 10.5 inches. So what you do is you set it on a piece of angle iron like this, or something, some kind of straight edge that you can find the balancing point of this arrow. Okay, so we're right about there. So I'm going to put a little mark there. And now we want to measure that distance. So basically we're at 2.5 inches on that arrow. So that is considered a balancing point. So here's the formula to figure out your front of center percentage. It is the balancing point divided by the length of the arrow. That equals your front of center dimension, which I just measured. So I just measured the balancing point. So if I take the 21 inches, actually I take the 2.5 inches and divide it by the 21 inches, it's going to give me a decimal. So then I take that decimal, that is my front of center dimension, and I times it by 100, and that gives me the percentage. So let's do that. Let's pull out our phone. Let's figure this out once. So my number was 2.5 divided by 21 equals 0.119. And then you multiply the 0.119 by 100. And that gives you 11.9%. Okay? So our range was 12 to 18%. So this arrow right here, this Regal X with the 125 tip, comes in right at the bottom of that percentage. Okay? So what they're saying is that if you're under the 12%, if you're like at 7% or 8%, your arrow is too light in the front, it'll have a tendency to fly. And by flying, I'm saying that when you shoot it at the target, it's going to go, you know, off direction. On the other hand, if you get up to 20% or something like that, you're too heavy on the front, it's gonna do the same thing, only the opposite way. It's gonna dive, more than likely. You know, depending on what you have on there for broadheads, and it all makes a difference how the arrows fly too, is your broadhead. So that's the Regal X. We're at about 12%, right? So now let's do this, the Carbon Express. Now these are brand new arrows right out of the box. I have not done anything but put a tip on there, a practice tip. So now I can already tell that this is going to be way under. That is roughly 1 5/8, okay? So we're going to take 1.625 divided by 21 is 0.077 for your decimal, times that by 100. You're at 7.7%. So you're only at 8% front of center on this supposedly expensive arrow Carbon Express pile driver. What do you do about it? You know, I don't know. That's the way they're selling them. They're selling them right out of the box. They're not weighted correctly according to the experts. If you want to spend the money and you have the tools to do it, you would have to take this aluminum insert that they have in this arrow, you would have to get that out of there. And I'm not sure how that's glued in, if it comes out very easy or not. I've never tried it. You would have to take that out of there, and they sell weighted inserts. They sell, I believe they're brass, or they're some kind of material that looks like brass. I don't know if they're brass or not. But they're weighted, and you can buy 100 grain, 125 grain, 200 grain. You can buy all different weights that you could put a different insert in here, and then that would weight the front of your arrow to get this up more to the 12 to 18%. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to shoot the arrows just the way they come from the manufacturer. These are supposed to be pretty good arrows, so we're going to try it. We're going to take a few shots, and we're going to see how these arrows fly, basically right out of the box. All right, so that's about what I can tell you about tuning your arrows for a crossbow, is trying to measure your front of center. So like I say, the cheap arrow is actually weighted correctly according to the experts, or close to it. The expensive arrow is not even close. Use that for what you want. That's all I can tell you about it. All right, so we're gonna go set up our target here at 20 yards, and we're gonna try and take some pictures here, or some film, and try and slow the arrow down so that you can see it coming into the target and see, you know, if it's flying or not flying, or, you know, which arrow is penetrating more. We're going to look at penetration between these two arrows, because one's a little heavier than the other, and that's the claim for the Carbon Express. They're called pile drivers because they're supposed to penetrate so much more. So we're going to check that all out coming up. Okay, so here's my setup. I'm trying to shoot into an area to target that I've never shot arrows into, so I can see the penetration. So I got the Carbon Express arrows are going to be on the left, the Regal arrows are going to be on the right. And that should give me a pretty good, this is pretty solid here yet, it's never been shot into. So that should give me a pretty good demonstration of the penetration, see if there's actually a difference. And then I have my chair set up over here. So I always shoot off of a rest so that I'm comparing apples with apples. So if I'm shooting off of a rest, I shoot off the chair, and that kind of simulates what I'm shooting off of out in my stand also. I have a little bit of a bench in front of the window, so that I'm shooting off of a bench basically. If I'm accurate here, I'm going to be accurate out there in the woods, and that's why I do this. Got to go lube up the bow, and we'll be ready to go in a minute. Alright guys, I'm going to start with the Rego arrows first. Now I would imagine, just based off the weight, that these are not going to fly the same. But we're going to see here once. So I really have had no complaints with this bow. This is the bow I bought for $150. Here's a link to the video up here. If I have one complaint, it seems that this trigger mechanism inside here is damaging the string, you know, and it's probably just the way it was made. It looks like it's a stamped, or not a stamped, like a little bit of a cast piece, and there might be a kind of a sharp edge on there, and that's what that looks like to me. That's my only complaint about this whole bow. This thing shoots great. I've had no issues with it. I don't believe you can buy it anymore. Every time I go look for it, it's out of stock or not available or whatever. But there are other models similar to this that you can purchase from this same company, Bruin Outdoors. Okay, that's the two Regos. Well, let's go see how we did. As I expected, the bow was sighted in from last year. I didn't really adjust anything on it. So it was sighted in last year for these Rego X arrows. So that's why these arrows are right at the blue mark. The Carbon Express arrows are probably, inch and a half lower. All right? No big deal. I expected that because this is a heavier arrow. Okay, so once I start shooting just the Carbon Express, I will raise that up and get that dialed in. But I just wanted to do that for this test. So as far as the grouping goes, and this is the first time I've shot the bow this year. So the grouping, these two are a little farther apart, these two are closer together. Don't know if that means anything right at this point yet. I will take some more shots and we'll see if I do a better job of grouping with either arrow. Let's look at the penetration. So the first test was just for penetration purposes. So if I had to say yes or no, I would say the Carbon Express did go in a little further. This one went way in, but it's also off to the side here more where there may not be the same stuffing. So I don't know if that's, this is the best test I can give you as far as penetration. So what I will do is I will set the camera up here now. We will try and see how they're flying, out of the bow and into the target. And hopefully we can dial them in here more and get them in the circle and get them right on for you. All right, so I'm trying to give you the best sight of this arrow as I can. I've done this before and it works okay, but it's, you know, it is what it is. That's all I got for equipment. So we're gonna try and do the best test. I will do right now. We're gonna be looking at the flight. So when I get in on my computer, I will slow it down and see how if we can see them flying or not. Well, looking at the arrows in the target, those arrows were all over the place. So hopefully when I slow this down, you'll be able to see how it looks. Some of it's me. I mean, 2 of them are right into bullseyes and the other 2 are way off. So it's, you know, it's me shaking over there. And some point with all this extra wood I got laying around here, I may make a shooting bench, but I'm not sure how I want to make it yet. I definitely think I'm going to put wheels on it so that I can just pull it behind a 4-wheeler to move it somewhere. But that's what I'm thinking on right now. And just making it out of this white pine I got laying around here and whatever, and that way when you sit on it, you'll be more accurate for sighting in your bow. All right, we'll do a couple more shots, see if I can put 4 of them in the target, in the bullseyes. Well, what do you think, guys? Either way, you're not missing a deer with those shots. If I were gonna say accuracy wise, even though that one arrow seems to be flying weird for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, and it's probably why the penetration is not the same on those 2 arrows there. So I could try a different arrow and see if that makes a difference. You never know, you know, with your arrows, you never know. So accuracy wise, as far as my grouping, the Carbon Express seems a little better than the Regal. But as far as the flying and penetration, the Regal, it doesn't look that bad. The one is off a little bit there, and that could still be me. You know, I haven't been shooting much lately, so it's a crapshoot, you know, when you don't shoot enough. So either way though, you know, I didn't miss a deer at 20 yards with either one of those arrows. So what did that tell us? It told me spending $40 on 6 arrows compared to $27 on a dozen arrows doesn't make a whole lot of difference, you know? That's what it told me. But I'm different that way. So what you saw here on this video, you could go to your sporting goods store and just ask them why these pile driver arrows, the front of center is way low compared to what the experts say you should have. Other than that, you know, the Regal arrow seems to be right where it's supposed to be, 12%. I don't have any other arrows here that I can check for you to tell you how they are. You know, you can go online, you can go on YouTube. There's a bunch of guys out there with videos on FOC. They just type in FOC for crossbow arrows, and there's a bunch of different videos that come up with the FOC, and get their opinions on it, and then before you buy an arrow, go find an arrow that works for you. As far as tuning a crossbow, there really isn't much that you can do. Okay, so my accuracy, some of the discrepancies comes from sitting on a chair like that. I'm not really, you know, when I'm lining it up, it's moving a little bit, and I'm just getting to where my crosshair is on that dot, and I let go of it. And that's the same way I do it when I'm out hunting, you know, because the deer is moving. The deer ain't standing perfectly still always. But the other thing is, that bow has a scope on it. 2 years ago, when I had all them issues with shooting at the deer, I felt that my glasses were one of the issues, and I had a different pair of glasses. I had a pair of safety glasses that were more concave to your head, you know. I felt that when I was looking in there, you know, because you're kind of looking out of the corner of your eye when you're looking in that scope, you're not necessarily looking straight on, you know. I felt that those glasses were messing me up, and I wasn't lining up my crosshairs in the middle of that window of the scope. So these glasses work much better. And these are the glasses, I hang on to these for that reason, because they're older glasses, but they work very good for me looking through a scope. But that's another thing that could be causing me to be off just a little bit. And it doesn't matter the scope or the 3-dot. You know, if you use the 3-dot, I think I have one laying here somewhere. This is off my Barnett bow. The 3-dots are nice, but if you forget to turn them off, the battery's always dead. I've had that happen several times where I got out to the woods and I had no dot because I left it on and did not have a dot to shoot if a deer did come out. So that's one problem with the 3-dots, but they're fairly accurate. I mean, they're just as accurate as that scope is going to be. It's not a real high precision scope or nothing. So, you know, they're fairly accurate. But even that, you're still lining it up in there to that dot. You can be off a little bit. You can, if you're wiggling, if you're not on a rest. That's the one thing that makes a compound bow probably a little better than a crossbow as far as accuracy. I used to be really good with my compound bow. But when you pull back and you anchor the same place every time, that arrow is going where you're pointing it pretty much, you know, where the crossbow is like shooting a gun. You're waving it around like that. Just my opinion, you know. Use it for what you want. But anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like these videos, make sure you subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next one.